This bread is my body, broken for you. Eat it in remembrance of me. This is my blood, I shed for you. That's dark, man. Eating your flesh, drinking your blood, that's not kosher. It's a metaphor.
Why not choose, like, the bread of life as a metaphor? And the wine could be the nectar of the gods. Something more positive. Now, the Greeks, they knew how to throw a feast. This is just a drag, dude.
Yes! I'm going to die tomorrow.
Maybe saying shit like drinking your blood and eating your flesh, like Anne Rice shit, kind of makes you a target, man.
Have faith. You'll see when I resurrect.
Yeah, a cool idea yesterday. But with the blood drinking talk, you know, vampires can't die either.
You do look a little pale for a guy born around here.
Verily I say unto you.
Yeah, that too. Verily was like cool to say in downtown Jerusalem 10 years ago. Like, let it go, dude.
Judas? You got the bill right? I'll get you next time.
It's 30 pieces of silver. I don't have that kind of cash.
Welcome to episode 5 of Oh, the Humanity. I'm your host, Rob Wright, and I am excited about this episode. There's a couple of comedy shorts I'm pretty pleased with, and a great interview with comedian Jamie Tucker from Austin, Texas. So I know you'll enjoy that. Hopefully, it will bring some levity as our days seem to grow more chaotic. I have the intention every episode to make this podcast more uplifting. And every time I have a plan for that, new horrible things arise that must be addressed. One day, I hope that's no longer the case. But for now, there are things I can't avoid addressing. We have a new war that we are told is not a war. Just as so many things unfolding before our eyes, we are told are not happening. While they call it war with words of war, using weapons of war, but it doesn't matter because he can do whatever he wants without Congress, because he has been, quote, anointed by Jesus. Is that where we are in the timeline? And I guess it's a good time to bring up the fact that I too have been anointed by Captain Crunch for having a podcast that doesn't go soggy in milk. We have seen our nation involve itself in foreign affairs and empire building our entire lives. And we did very little to stop it, clinging to our national security fears and a hyperbolic sense of patriotism and moral rightness. But now we get to witness in broad daylight what it is like to be the citizens of a nation at war as the villain. Make no mistake, we are the bad guys here. As Americans, our worldview is poisoned. Our progressive tendencies push us toward a more secular, objective understanding of ourselves and the world. Yet, we gloss over the traditions of superstition and unverified myth that maintain the toxic nuances of our societal programming. These toxic nuances are often mistaken as virtue. By some commanders and backed up by the rhetoric of the Secretary of War during the peacetime president's administration, our military members are being told this war is biblical, prophetic, divinely ordained, and that Trump is anointed to carry out this divine plan. Seriously. It is psychotic. It is immoral, and it will be the end for the United States if we cannot collectively reject the constant use of religion to justify the consolidation of power, social control, and expansionism that we're witnessing. The American government needs this perverse religious narrative to continue its existence. It needs you afraid and looking to the sky for help, convinced the only way is war, control, and expansion. My God is right, your God is evil, is the root of the problem. Why spiritual practice and belief is and should be rooted in humble faith is that it cannot be proven. To be so confident that your God is right and that you wish to celebrate the death and destruction of others is pure ignorance that perpetuates violence and hatred. Many believers have tossed aside a mystical, hopeful idea of faith and chosen their own perceived certainty in order to control others and to dismantle anything that makes them question this assumed certainty. Faith is not certainty. Faith is not proof. Faith is believing despite having questions or an ability to prove spiritual experience as fact. The absence of fact should bring humility and caution. Faith should create room for grace, kindness, and curiosity as we explore our existential beliefs. I am a person of faith, just not an organized one. It has been a major driver of my life and how I express myself. Along my own journey of seeking, I have had an overwhelming amount of mystical experiences. And as powerful and mysterious as these experiences are, I can only determine what they mean to me individually. I cannot prove these mystical experiences. I cannot prove what I witnessed is exactly what I have felt it could be. So I can never claim it as fact. I cannot push my experience on others. I will never claim to know that I know for certain. My experiences teach me I have more to learn. They drive my curiosity. They give me hope that I'm not alone. But if I were to stop questioning even my most vivid experiences, I would be vulnerable to deception and manipulation by forces I cannot empirically prove are anything outside of my own perception. I am cautious enough to proceed with humility and openness. My intentions focus solely on truth and my own growth and how I can affect the world in a benevolent way. But to take my personal spiritual journey and turn it into a dogma would be both arrogant and ignorant. As deeply moving and life-changing as my own journey has been, having faith means not having undeniable proof. And I'm okay with that. I do not require an organized religion or masses of people agreeing with me to pursue what is in my own heart and in my own curiosity. I may never be certain if my visions, feelings, realizations are anything more than the undiscovered mysteries of my own mind. Therefore, I would find it inauthentic and even unethical to proclaim it as absolute truth for others to follow. In my opinion, once faith goes from being a personal quest into a public or political movement, it's dead on arrival. So why do I fight against the thinking of Abrahamic faiths? If they weren't deeply enmeshed in our political power structure and gravely affecting the lives of people who disagree, I simply wouldn't. I wouldn't give it time. They have created nothing but war and fear and theocracy. They teach total obedience to an etheric stranger. They teach that I must fight the battles for a supposedly all-powerful God. I find words and symbols and rituals powerful, and so I will not take communion and symbolically eat the flesh and drink the blood of a supposed martyr. I refuse to see others as godless and simply lost because they do not believe the way that I believe. Can't do that. I prefer my deities not demand my praise and my unconditional loyalty, but to simply offer wisdom and guidance so I may seek and find truth for myself. I will not blindly bend a knee to a divine being for fear of hell. I will not claim any deity as the supreme, for I cannot prove anything. And they have yet to prove, without doubt, anything to me. So I try to keep my own beliefs compartmentalized, separate from my philosophies about government structure, implementation, and common law. I wish to be objective and try to better understand the world around me and all of the unique and wonderful people there are with all the fascinating things of which they are capable. We have a right to freely be ourselves, with all our own version of faith or no faith at all. We have a right to reject others' attempts to force their ancient beliefs on the rest of us. Our Constitution is clear, despite attempts to muddy the language and distort its intent. Just as the Second Amendment warriors ignore the well-regulated militia caveat in the Second Amendment, right-wing Christian evangelists to nullify the separation of church and state, claiming we are a Christian nation. But Thomas Jefferson wrote, "It does me no injury for my neighbor to say there are 20 gods or no God. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg." Article 11 of the 1797 Treaty of Tripoli, signed by President John Adams and unanimously ratified by the Senate and states as the government of the United States of America, is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. This was to reassure the Muslim state that the U.S. was a secular nation and religious differences would not be the cause for conflict. What we have instead is a population of believers fueled by propaganda. Believers so afraid of being wrong, of being conquered, of being seen as even equal to other humans, it gnashes its teeth if it's questioned or asked to evolve. It demands supremacy. It demands to be the only religion, the only savior, the only way forward, limiting our ability, our options to progress at all. In the end, it does not matter if Jesus was politically left or right leaning. He is not here. He is not voting on legislation. He is a symbol of faith, if you choose to believe it, nothing more. He is absolutely powerless if believers do not do the work themselves. He's not your golden ticket. He's not your shield from accountability. A story cannot fix anything, but your belief in tenets that are fair and just will. I prefer one atheist who is altruistic and compassionate over billions of believers hedging belief for eternal reward. That is transactional thinking, not transcendent spiritual experience. I will never be okay with government dictating my religion or pursuing its agenda through religious belief. Zealotry is not faith, and force is not free will. How can we be this naive? This has been the playbook of empires from the beginning, and they always fall. As the majority of the voting population sat comfortably, they were indoctrinated by a false sense of prosperity and dominance. Left and right and middle all fell to the American marketing machine, the masters of propaganda, all the while arrogantly believing the propaganda that America wasn't upheld by propaganda. And now we see in the Epstein files and other horrifying scandals just how depraved and evil those that prop up our American machine truly have been, for longer than we are ready to admit. If you think any politician in the last, and I'm just throwing this out there, 60 plus years was on our side, you fell for the bait. I still see my progressive friends touting the goodness of Obama or Bernie Sanders' election would have averted the last 12 years of insanity and on and on and on. Nonsense. They did not ascend to their seats in this twistedly orchestrated illusion of a land without, at the very least, turning a blind eye. And it's enough. It's time to move on. It's time to let go of our perceived heroes and find new ones. And those new heroes are inside all of us. We just have to choose to do the hard work. We have to choose to not give in to the easy answer or dopamine fueled clickbait for solace and solution. If we want this country, this world to survive, we have to wake up. And waking up isn't the right is bad, the left is bad, or that they're all bad. Those may be accurate assessments, but it is not an actual awakening to simply realize this. The awakening comes as you sift through the nuances of this nation's structures, beliefs, goals, and desires, realizing the quiet toxicity, the undercurrent of poisoned thinking, the superficial and vapid air that permeates the entire civilization that must be purged from our programming. That is the true awakening. If America has to fall to save the world, we have to accept it. If America crumbles, people still exist. Life marches on. All empires fall, and still humanity moves on. Yes, things would be very different, but we all know we need different. It's just that change and the unknown are very scary, especially to a voting populace that had fallen asleep too long ago. As long as we frame things as left versus right or us versus them, we will forever be divided, and our own shortcomings will be hidden by this fight against the other side. We have a population that is too tired, too confused, too distracted by all the chaos to have a chance to deeply self-reflect. If we truly took an honest look at ourselves, we will see we all had a hand in this disaster. That being said, it is not a condemnation. I truly believe we've all been victims. We have all, from time to time, chosen to believe what feels easy and safe. It's easy and safe to point out obvious evils. It is a true challenge to objectively look inward and see where our nuanced misconceptions have fueled our actions, our reactions, and our goals. It takes bravery to identify where even the most well-meaning American has lost touch with reality. We must get our individual selves in order first. There is too much focus and energy given to our fears and assumed enemies. This is the only way through. Otherwise, if we wait for yet another smooth-talking politician or celebrity to save the day, we will be lulled deeper into the abyss, giving up the last bits of freedom we have. If we do not fortify our own beings, if we hold on to outdated thoughts of what America was or should be, if we simply blame the other side, we will crumble as individuals and a people right alongside this fading empire. There is a new world coming, but it starts within before it can manifest outwardly. Learning this and abiding by this are paramount to our survival, not as a nation or a form of government, but as human beings. This is a war on our humanity. The only way to effectively fight back is to embrace our humanity, hold it as sacred, and be willing to dive into the depths of ourselves to reclaim it. Our humanity is within us, so fighting the world or other ideologies or people or nations will do nothing but erode that. It is about acknowledging, yes, there is evil in the world, but I'm not that. We are not that. Dig deep into that part of yourself that feels unworthy or broken or scared or confused and find your way through without shying away from the hardest truths. When you see how worthy of goodness and hope you truly are, you will cast off the chains of dehumanization and a shift will occur, first within and then spilling out into the world. When trying to find solution amidst the chaos, I am reminded of this quote, often attributed to Lao Tzu, but it may actually be an amalgamation of Confucian thought. Nonetheless, I feel it to be powerful as we seek answers as to how to change our world for the better. There is to be peace in the nations. There must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. May we all find peace in our hearts, and soon. Now I get a chance to lighten things up a bit. AI Rob has something for us, so take it away, AI Rob.
Since human Rob is a bit too inhibited to do what it takes to grow his audience, I've come up with some content that my data suggests is sure to bring more viewers.
Laughter can rip you from where you are and place you right in the middle of the shenanigans. We need comedians. We need laughter. We need the lighthearted escape, and we also need the type of humor that makes it easier to swallow the bitter truths about ourselves and society. It also helps our well-being in profound ways. Laughter truly is the best medicine. Laughter provides numerous scientifically backed physical benefits that function as a form of natural medicine for the body. Hearty laughter increases heart rate and blood pressure initially, followed by a period of relaxation. It improves the function of blood vessels, increases blood flow, and can even lower blood pressure. A good laugh relieves physical tension, leaving muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes. Laughter decreases stress hormones, such as cortisol and epinephrine, and increases immune cells and infection-fighting antibodies, which improves resistance to disease. As a pain reliever, laughter triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals, which can temporarily relieve pain and increase pain tolerance. Laughter also increases the intake of oxygen-rich air, which stimulates the lungs, heart, and muscles. It can also help reduce air trapping in people with COPD. And while not a replacement for exercise, laughing for 10 to 15 minutes a day can burn approximately 40 calories. Some research suggests that laughter can reduce the rising glucose levels after eating. Now, the long-term physical effects of laughter include reduced risk of disease, improved brain function, and improved sleep. This makes people like my guest today an integral part of our lives. We need laughter in all kinds of art, entertainment, and storytelling to enrich our lives, help us process, and inspire our own creative side. Jamie Tucker is a stand-up comic out of Austin, Texas, and I am grateful she has taken some time to join us for an interview. Right now, I'm going to play for you an 8-minute set of Jamie on stage. Unfortunately for this clip, we had some technical difficulties, so I only have audio footage available. To check out more clips and more info about Jamie Tucker, visit her website, jamietuckercomedy.com. That's jamietuckercomedy.com. So enjoy the clip, and I'll be right back for my interview with Jamie.
I am originally from Florida. I'm from Tampa, Florida. That's where I grew up. Florida was a weird place to grow up in the 80s. In elementary school, they teach you weird things like how to run away from an alligator the right way. Does anybody here know how the correct way to run away from an alligator?
I do.
Yes, zigzag pattern, because those lowrider murder dinosaurs, they have no turn radius. So you kind of shuck and jive, you can kind of get out of their way. But it only works like 40% of the time, and they're teaching this to children. Clearly didn't work for that toddler that got ate in Disney World a few years ago. I'm going to say a thing, and I want you guys to give me a call back, okay?
All right.
Florida is so hot.
How hot is it?
Florida is so hot, dumbasses forget their babies in the car and they die. That's how hot Florida is. And every time that happens, I'm like, that was a fucking mistake, baby. Because there's no way a whole human that you have created, gave a bath, fed, put clothes on, buckled into your back seat, and then you just drive to work and lollygag your ass on into the office and leave that baby out there for 8 hours to boil to death? Bullshit. Bullshit. Just ask Casey Anthony.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have 3 children. I have 3 kids. Hard to believe, right? Hard to believe.
Yeah, it is.
At least one is a mistake baby, but I couldn't bring myself to roast it like a turkey. So yeah, I have 3 kids. I have 1 that I like, and 2 that still live at home. And the 2 that live at home are 2 little girls, 2 girls. I have 2 daughters. And they are only a year apart because their dad was as good at pulling out as our government is.
Oh, okay.
That motherfucker couldn't pull out of a driveway, let me tell you. So I've got these 2 little girls, right? And let me tell you, I don't know does anybody in here have kids or multiple kids?
No.
But whenever you have these 2 little girls, it's dealing with them as toddlers is like trying to handle a drunk sorority girl, just fueled by a night of White Claw and lines of Adderall. It's crazy. Whenever we go somewhere and I try to leave, I have to lure them in with the promise of chicken nuggets, just like your drunk friends. Yeah. And they, I used to have to kind of bounce them out of birthday parties, I was kicking them out of the club on 6th Street. I'm like, come on, bitches, we gotta go. And then one of them will be like, oh my God, Mom. We were gonna do a TikTok with Reagan and Madison and Kennedy. And I'm like, and all the other dead presidents? Who's fucking naming these kids? Is one good? Name the next one Taft because it can't get out of the bathtub.
What?
Yeah, so I've got these 2 little girls, and they're mean as fuck. The first one was a boy. I love the boy. He's going to be 30 this year. He's a sergeant in the Army. Give it up for Jesse.
Yeah.
These 2 little girls, they are manipulative and dark, right? But it's kind of my fault because my oldest girl, when she was 10 years old, she asked if she could watch the movie Hereditary, and I hadn't seen it. And I was like, yeah, sure, you can totally watch it. And so now I have to pay for a therapist every month. And she's scared to roll down the back window of the car. So one day I'm riding in the car with the kids and their dad, right? And the 2 little girls in the back seat, they're about 8, 9 years old. And we're just chilling, listening to music, hanging out, And all of a sudden, the 8-year-old from the back seat just blurts out, "Hey, Dad, what's a queef?" inside, I'm dying because this is the best sentence that bitch has ever said. The best thing that's ever happened, right? Because he didn't fucking ask me. So I look over at their dad, and he's like red. He's sweating. And he looks over at me and he's like I'm gonna fucking save his ass. So I looked directly at him and I said, yeah, Dad, what is a queef? What the fuck is he gonna say? How is he gonna explain this to a child? And then my other daughter, the older one, she says, I think it's pronounced quiff. I think you guys are saying it wrong. And I said, well, maybe that's how they pronounce it in Canada. Yeah. And so I take a beat. The other little girl is, yo, Dad, like, what is it? What is it? What's that word mean? And he says, I think it's just a girl fart. He's like desperate. It just means when a girl farts. I says, that's what it means. And then she goes, oh, that's okay. I quiff all the time. So these little bitches, I knew I had to get some birth control, right? Because I couldn't trust this motherfucker using the fucking rhythm method. We are not Catholic. We're not Catholic. And I can only do so much anal.
Thought you said you weren't Catholic.
Oh, boom.
Oh.
Nice. So I'm thinking about what kind of birth control I need to use, and I'm thinking of it in a very feminist, empowering way. I want to make the best of this situation. So I'm like, well, let me do some research, and then I can make a decision for myself in my own uterus. And I see this commercial for an IUD, an intrauterine device. It sounds so feminine, doesn't it?
No.
So I see this commercial, and this beautiful white girl in a sundress, dancing in the rain, drunk on her own sterility. And then I think, I want that life for myself. I want to be that fucking free. I want to dance in the rain in a sundress and not worry about it sticking to my boobs. So I make an appointment with my OB to get this IUD put in. This bitch throws me back on the table, doesn't even give me a box of wine first. I felt like a 1994 Ford Taurus having its transmission rebuilt, because let me tell you, when they crank open your service, they're using a floor jack. That's what they're using. Like they're changing your oil. Crank you open. It's awful. This was not the feminist empowering experience I was looking for at all. But at least now I have my little T for tramp, so I don't have to worry about leaving my mistake baby in a hot car. I'm Jamie Tucker. Thanks.
So I'm here with Jamie Tucker. Welcome to Oh the Humanity. How are you, Jamie?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm all right today. It's good to have you on. So I'll start right out. You were the first woman ever to win the funniest person in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yes. Yes, I was.
What has your journey as a woman in stand-up been like?
It is, you have to have, I learned very quickly that you had to have a very thick skin, because the male comics, a lot of them feel intimidated whenever there's a woman around. So they try to roast you to see what you can handle and not handle. So I learned pretty quickly to have a very quick wit. And if someone, wanted to roast me a bit, I could clap back even better than they were. So that is like the most important thing I learned, was to be able to take a joke when somebody was making fun of me.
That's an important thing to learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you think it
And
ever crossed the line past like ribbing and roasting?
oh, definitely. I encountered more than one male comic that were just downright predatory and mean, And I had a couple of odd interactions with a couple of male comics that were borderline violent, that I had to, kind of lay down the law, because they don't like it, when women are doing well or are receiving positive feedback for something that they feel like they're better at simply because they're a man.
Yeah. I don't doubt that that's happened. Do you want to go into any of those specific situations?
Not really, because I feel like I handled it appropriately, and it's just some old BS that happened in the past, and I know how to handle it before it gets to that point nowadays.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So while the women aren't funny trope has been debunked, many female comics still face unique obstacles, such as being tokenized on lineups or dealing with a male dominated booking. In your experience, how have the challenges shifted in recent years? And what is the biggest hurdle remaining for women trying to break into the scene today?
I think the shift has actually shifted a little bit backwards. I feel like it's a little bit, especially in the Austin scene, it's a little bit more misogynistic. It's there are a lot of open mics, even the ones that I host, that will just be all men, not one woman. And I think it's because women feel like they're unwelcome, in a way. But in reality, especially at my mic, the men are very respectful and they don't say, just edgelord ridiculous things. So, yeah. And repeat the question because I totally lost my train of thought right there.
That's okay. That's okay.
I totally, I was like, what am I even talking about right now?
That's all right. That happens to me all the time. Many female comics still face unique obstacles, such as being tokenized on lineups or dealing with male dominated booking. In your experience, how have the challenges shifted in recent years? And what is the biggest hurdle remaining for women trying to break into the business?
I think that for whatever reason, the pendulum has swung into a more misogynistic sort of viewpoint in certain comedy scenes. And I think that's kind of blowback from women sort of becoming more prominent and getting Netflix specials and, becoming more well-known touring comedians like Steph Tolive and Jordan Jensen and Lunel. There are a lot of women that are becoming more popular right now. And I think that is a little bit of a threat to some of these dudes that have low self-esteem and nothing funny to say. It's threatening when someone with real talent, you know?
Right.
And so I feel like women who enter scenes these days, recently just starting out, you're kind of a lot braver than I had to be even though I had a lot of misogyny I had to like work past, and a lot of guys didn't think I was as funny, as them, and they would get jealous when they saw me getting booked shows and things. But I decided whenever I moved to Austin, one of the reasons why I chose Austin is because there weren't any prominent female comedians that were Austin based that I was noticing. And I felt like there's a little bit of a vacuum in the comedy community here where if you're a good, headstrong, high charisma, can put up with bullshit woman, then, there's a lot of room to grow here in Austin. So there's different ways you can look at it. It's harder, but if you're brave enough and you keep, working towards what you want and you don't listen to these assholes, then there's plenty of room in Austin and other comedy scenes for women to make a name for themselves.
So you're actually saying in the last several years it's gotten worse, it's regressed.
I've noticed, yeah, it's the Joe Rogan dude bros that, they would give up their firstborn son to be able to get on Kill Tony. Like those
Right.
dudes. That's a large swath of the community here. But I'm kind of like the anti Kill Tony, you know. I I don't I hate it whenever comedians use Kill Tony as a credit because you didn't have to audition. You didn't have to send in a reel to get on that show. They literally just picked your name out of a bucket. You just got
I
lucky,
see.
you know?
Right. That's so describe Kill Tony for the viewers that don't understand. We
Sure.
talked about it a little bit before in the pre-interview, but
Yeah.
describe the format and how it works.
So there's like a dais. So there's like a table with like 3 or 4 more well-known comedians. Tony Hinchcliffe runs it. and he'll have different
Uh,
guests like Theo Vaughn or um Michael Rappaport, I think, but different comedians on there. And what they do is they bring up a person they picked out randomly out of a hat, and then they have them do a minute worth of material, and then the comics that are sitting at the table, the panel, they will roast that comedian. Yeah.
oh,
And
so
if
it
but
sounds very predatory, honestly.
it
Like, that
really
sounds like they're bringing up
is.
people looking for an opportunity, and then they're, as seasoned comics, taking the opportunity to punch down. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And there are hundreds of people line up to sign up I think it's Monday nights here, every Monday night in downtown Austin, just for the maybe chance of getting on there for a minute. Now, it's launched a couple of people's careers
Mm-hmm.
because they were able to roast back in a way that, was funny, but at the same time, they were still kind of going along with the horrible shit the other dudes were saying.
Right.
So it's just, it's like a, it's like where dudes go that think saying the R word and the F word and the N word, they think that's comedy, that they can just go say, slurs and punch down on marginalized communities and just say horrible shit. And they think that's what comedy is because these guys like Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan, that's basically what they do with their
Right.
comedy. So,
It's funny to them. That's their humor,
right.
you
And
know?
it's super childish. It's not my bag, but I'm not going to tell somebody that they can't do it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to give you a spot on my show I book if I hear you say stuff like that on stage.
Right, right. So, what's your advice then for people trying to break into the scene to not feel like they have to lower their standards or their values to give
Uh-huh.
something up to get a spot, to sell themselves, sell their souls in a sense? I mean, I'm sure some people go in with a different idea about it, and maybe
Yeah.
selling one's soul to be on Kill Tony might be a little bit hyperbole. But in that sense, how would you advise someone sticking with their values and virtues while they're trying to make it in the
I think that those words you can say, but if you frame it in a way where it's obvious that you understand how offensive they are, and then you can use those words. However, things like Kill Tony, trying to get in at the mothership, that's not gonna make you famous. It's like trying to win the lottery, very low chances of that getting you anywhere. The best thing you can do is go to as many open mics as you can and practice every night, every night, every night. And then once you work through about 15 minutes worth of material and you can put it all together in a cohesive way, then you can start, recording yourself and sending reels to bookers. And, because once you have 15 minutes of material, then, you can open up for somebody. You can be a feature or
Yeah.
an opener.
Do you think 15 minutes is the standard to have?
Usually it's 15 to 20. Sometimes whenever I do shows, I break it up into like 2 10-minute spots, then a 20-minute spot, and then a 45-minute spot.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. So, how do you see the new or the next generation of female comedians building upon the work that's been accomplished so far?
I think that women like Steph Tolive and Jordan Jensen are showing other female comedians that you don't have to shy away from hard subjects, and you can make things that might seem um, vulgar, in a way for a woman to talk about and make it funny and palatable, and but you can still be shocking in your comedy if you're a woman. And I think that's important for the women coming up to see. You don't have to water down your material. You don't have to shy away from things you think might gross men out. Talk about it. Let's all talk about all that stuff all the time and make it normal.
Be free being you.
Yeah.
Well, you spoke a little bit about what's offensive and what comics do for the low hanging fruit or for the
Uh,
opportunity. Now, I think censorship is a very dicey thing.
I
But we
agree.
are right. Especially with artists and
Yes.
comedians and entertainers and people that are in a position to speak truth to power and to be able
Hmm.
to do it in an artistic, graceful way that makes people think, but also disarms them with something comedic
Right.
or something beautiful in the realm of
Yeah.
art. Um, so because the world is such a powder keg of hate and ignorance, and hopefully we're trying to create a better dialogue, understanding and breaking down prejudices and tolerance.
Uh-huh.
And art should have, a wide berth to allow us to fully examine our world through that thought and expression.
Yeah.
But where is the line in comedy where a joke becomes offensive or further marginalizes a person or a group of people? What is off limits in your opinion?
I think that nothing is off limits. But again, you have to be able to take the blowback of what you've said. If you want to be like a Paul Stanhope and just say, vulgar, raucous stuff, there's a place for that. And that's fine. Some people think that's funny. I'm not going to tell you not to say stuff. But if you come to my open mic and you're like, hey, how should I structure this joke where I'm going to use the R word? I'll help you figure it out so that it comes out funny and not in a punching down sort of way.
Now on your open mic nights, have you had a lot of that where people have some questionable material that they're willing to talk to you about?
Absolutely. There is this guy came to my mic and he had a joke with the R word in it. And before the show started, he was asking me if that was okay. And oh my God, the ice cream man's coming down the road. So there's gonna be a bunch of ringing. Here,
Do you
here
wanna
the
run
ice
out
cream dude,
quick? If you
the
wanna
ice
run
cream man.
out
I'm gonna
quick,
go
I
get some
mean
ice cream. I'll be right back. No,
right?
but
We can take a
he
break. It's
was,
okay,
yeah,
like, that's worth it.
he was telling me that,
Nice bomb pop to go with this.
yeah. So this guy was telling me he had a joke where he was going to use the R word, and he explained to me how he was going to use it because he had a pack of condoms from Mexico that had RETARD written on the package for whatever reason. I don't know why. Advertising? I don't know.
Right.
But he was like, I'm going to talk about this. And I'm like, well, just introduce this as the most offensive pack of condoms you've ever found, and then
Right.
you can use that word because we're making fun of the word and not people who would be considered, offended by that, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. It's all about
Yeah.
not punching down.
Right.
Earlier we talked about speaking truth to power and having that ability to say whatever, that freedom to say whatever, as long as it's
Yeah.
framed appropriately or face the backlash. But
Yeah.
that's what it does. To just don't punch down, punch up.
Yeah, it's easy. All you have to do is change up your wording. You can still say the N word if you want to. You just have to have a good joke about it. You just have to be a good writer. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these guys.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be one of the toughest parts of the craft
Yeah.
is writing the joke.
Yeah.
Well, you also not only write jokes and perform them, but you're also a producer. Now, that
Yes.
often means navigating unpredictable situations, whether it's difficult talent, technical failures, or even tough crowds. Can you tell us about a time a show didn't go as planned and what that experience taught you about the very business of comedy?
Oh, I have a very recent experience. So I about a month or so ago, I got booked at the oldest comedy club in Austin, the Velveeta Room. And it would be my very first comedy club. Like I've done a few I like, head shops and stuff. I've done shows since I got here. But it would be my first downtown 6th Street comedy club performance. And I got to do 10 minutes and I was so excited. And I brought a bunch of my friends with me. They all bought tickets and bought drinks. Well, one of my friends decided to get a little too drunk. And after my set, she pretty much heckled all the other comedians. And then the woman who booked me was like mad at me about it and wrote me this really long, nasty message that really hurt my feelings. And man, I honestly like, how do you handle it whenever your friend does something like that? So that's been hard. I don't not sure how to navigate that in a way where I can, have any forgiveness because it was just so damaging, her behavior.
Right.
You know, it really made
Right.
me look like an idiot. It made me look really bad. And it gave that booker, you know, now whenever she sees my name on something, what she's gonna think about is my friend acting like a complete asshole in public.
Well, that is unfortunate. I hope you can clear that up. At
Yeah,
least, with the booker and also maintain a friendship. That would be the
yeah.
ideal. So why comedy for you?
For me, because I used to get in trouble at work for telling jokes all the time, and I saw an ad for an open mic whenever I moved to Sioux Falls, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take these jokes, I'm gonna write them all down, I'm gonna memorize 5 minutes, and go on stage and do the thing. And I did, and it was a blast. It was a blast.
What was that first time like?
Oh man, it's like your first time getting high. You like remember the first time you smoked weed, and like you've never been that high ever in your life ever again.
Yes,
It
I
is
do.
kind of like that. It's a huge dopamine hit. It's a huge rush of adrenaline. And when you're on stage, I can be as loud as I want. I can be as out of left. I can say whatever I want, no matter how crass or vulgar it might be. I can figure out a way to say it and make it entertaining for, the audience. And I discovered that maybe I am pretty good at that. And so I kept at it.
That's wonderful. I think that's a common theme among artists of all types in all industries is that when they're performing their craft, they feel free. They feel
Yeah.
most themselves. They're able to
Yeah.
be what they can be behind closed doors and have to hold back in appropriate settings like work, like you
Yeah.
talked about. But that ability to just kind of let it fly and be you and just navigate that as just a full human being.
Yeah, it's a comfortable feeling up there, especially when I'm doing material that I've been working on for like the past few years that I've really polished and I've, got down pat. That it's very it's like I don't know, it's kind of like riding a skateboard or something. Like it's that kind of rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, especially when you're debuting a new bit. What's that like for you?
Oh my gosh. I'm always so bad at when the first time I try to tell a joke. I just have like a few ideas and then I try to riff off of these ideas and I just keep doing it until eventually it sounds correct.
Try and try again, right?
Yeah.
Well, I like that. Well, that's a good place right here to take a quick break, and then we'll
Alrighty.
be back more with comedian Jamie Tucker. Hold on.
Their babies in the car and they die. That's how hot Florida is. And every time that happens, I'm like, that was a fucking mistake, baby. Because there's no way a whole human that you have created, gave a bath, fed, put clothes on, buckled into your back seat, and then you just drive to work and lollygag your ass on into the office and leave that baby out there for 8 hours to boil to death? Bullshit.
Now, sexuality is a part of being human. In our society, in our culture, we've had great trouble trying to drop shame and guilt about people's sexual expressions, their desires, their needs.
Mhm.
And it's an important topic. And Jamie has been an online sex worker and a fetish and kink content creator. And I think she can walk us through a really great conversation that might be able to break down some of those walls of shame and guilt that surround our sexuality and our desires that are typically taboo. Societal stigma often tries to attach shame to sex work. Looking back, what is one thing you are proud of accomplishing during your time in the industry that had nothing to do with the sexual nature of the work?
I liked providing a space that was safe and judgment free for clients to explore things in a safe way where they weren't surprising a partner with this weird thing they're into, where they were seeking out someone to specifically um cater to what they're into. And I, really liked how the clients were always respectful. No one ever made me feel creepy. But I probably just got lucky in that regard.
Well, maybe it's how you approached it, though. If you
Yeah,
set boundaries, and it seems like your intention was to set a safe place for people or a safe space for people.
right.
How did you do that? What was your process of creating that environment where someone felt safe exploring?
Well, I would start the conversation with, what's the last thing you fantasized about? Simple things. Can you tell me maybe a scenario that you were interested in exploring further? But for the most part, I would respond to ads where the clients would have a specific ask, what they were looking for, and then I would respond to those ads if it was something that I felt comfortable with doing.
So you really got to pick and choose who your clientele were in this format.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. That's really great. Now, online content creation allows for strict boundaries that you were just kind of talking about, but
Uh,
that traditional work sometimes doesn't. So, how did you establish and maintain your personal boundaries to ensure you felt safe and respected in your virtual workspace?
well, I always use, a pseudonym. Never my real name. Never received money in a way where they could figure out what my government name was. And
Right,
so
right.
there was a level of anonymity, and oftentimes I would wear a wig or have my makeup in a certain way that would make me look a little bit different. So I would do things like that to maintain some protection in regards to that, protect my personal life.
That's important. That's
Mm.
important. Now, did you ever run across somebody in your personal life that recognized you?
No, no, I haven't. Yeah, I would be interested if somebody did. I'd want them to tell me. I'd want to know.
Right. Give you your review or your Yelp
Yeah,
review?
yeah. Was it good? Did you like it?
Right,
Was
right.
I hot enough for you? That sort of thing.
So there's a common, often negative stereotype about clients. In your experience, what was the most positive or humanizing interaction you had with a viewer or subscriber?
Um, I had a guy once who thought that I looked like his wife who had passed away. And so he would have me record content of me doing simple things around the house, like doing the dishes, not even sexual, doing the dishes, folding laundry, and simple things like that because he missed watching his wife do those things and he was trying to fill that void he had, missing her doing simple things. That was like the sweetest, like how sweet,
Yeah.
yet heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's a heart-wrenching experience.
Yeah.
So and it just did it ever go into the sexual realm, or was that
No, not at
basically the
all. He
whole
never
nature?
No, he just wanted videos of that. Cooking, he wanted me to record myself cooking, things like that. It wasn't sexual in nature, and that was maybe a little bit harder emotionally for me than the sexy stuff because it's so
Yeah.
meaningful to this person, what I'm doing.
That's a deeper
Oh.
level of intimacy, really.
Right, yeah.
Hmm. So, if you could change one major misconception the general public has about digital creators and sex workers, what would that be? And how can we move toward a more shame free view of this?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is people think, specifically women who do it because we're, like, forced into it or because we don't have any other options. No one ever considers the fact that, well, maybe because I have fun doing it, you know?
Right.
And you get, like, positive feedback on something, doing something that maybe feels, you're very self-conscious of your body and how it looks. But you've got people paying you money to see you naked, so that really boosts. It's a big self-esteem booster. It made me a lot more comfortable with myself.
Right. Were there any negative things it brought out? Maybe thoughts or worries or anything like
Um,
that?
I never had any creepy interactions with anyone. I never had anybody try to figure out who I was or stalk me or anything strange like that. And whenever I was done doing it, I was done. I just deleted my accounts um and didn't do it anymore. But I didn't stop because um I felt bad about doing it. I just stopped because I thought I had learned enough about that side of the world and that community, and I felt I had a better education about the BDSM and kink and fetish community, and I felt like I had learned what I wanted to learn, you know?
It's a brilliant way to go about it. Very explorative, and I like that. So let me see how I want to phrase that. I had a question to follow up, and then it just flew away into no
That's
man's.
alright.
Oh. So how did you get to a place and you're like, what experiences gave you such a positive view on your sexuality and allowed you to be inhibited enough to explore this?
Um, because I posted, a nudie, and I wanted to see if I got any reactions to it, and that's kind of how I started. I had, guys asking me to make videos for them, and I was like, "Really?" Like, I'm middle-aged. But no, a lot of younger guys are really into that, like, dommy mommy sort of dynamic, and so they want, like, an older woman to sort of talk them through sexual things in a way, you know? They want, a woman, an older woman to be dominant with them, but in, like, a sweet way, you know?
Right.
Like, "Oh, you're such a good boy," those kinds of things, and, yeah.
We're all just puppies. That's just really what it is. All men are puppies. We just need patted on the head and
Yeah,
well, that's really interesting. And it seems like and it gets a real negative connotation. And a lot of times I roll my eyes at it when I think of how men approach relationships with women a lot of
uh
times. And it seems like, especially in our culture, a lot of men, especially maybe conservative leaning, but I don't want to pigeonhole that because I
uh
think it's a cultural thing, tend to go into a long term relationship almost looking for a mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So do
Absolutely,
you
a lot
think
of
that
guys
kind
do,
of blurs
yeah.
the line a little bit? Go ahead.
Yeah, but, I think also men who are very dominant in, like, their jobs and careers and maybe their home life don't have room for themselves to, um, be intimate with a person, but whenever it's a transactional interaction, it's easier for a lot of men to be able to be, uh, vulnerable, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can't be vulnerable during the day, they can't be vulnerable around their kids or their wife for whatever reason, but they can be a good little boy, for an online sex worker.
All right. Well, that's fascinating. And it's very, very true. It's almost like, and
Yeah,
we see it in other areas of our lives as we learn ourselves and try to get to a more authentic side of ourselves. Oftentimes we swing to extremes where
right.
we've got the role where we're in charge, we're in charge, we're in charge. And then
Uh-huh.
it has to swing all the way to the other way
Yeah,
sometimes
so that you get
to
some
find
relief
that
because there's
balance and
no
learn.
middle ground. Yeah.
Right. Well, do you see perceptions on our sexuality, our consumption of sexual content, and sex work changing? You see that changing?
Yeah, it's getting harder for guys to look up porn, man, because, Texas and other southern states, they have that block on the porn
Oh,
sites where you have to, like, upload your driver's license. So, I
well,
think the, um, content creators who make specific types of porn, those guys are gonna start reaching out to those and buying their own. because it's not as readily available as it was. So I think there might be a little bit of a renaissance for other online creators in that regard.
And what do you think the outcome of that renaissance will be?
I think that there will probably be blowback, and then I feel like our current administration, the grown-ups that are in charge right now, are ridiculous. But I feel like
Grown
if
ups.
that
Yeah.
became more popular, they would try to squash that down too. So then, like, Backpage and stuff like that, all those websites that sell content, OnlyFans, they'll probably try to shut that stuff down.
Yeah. I think there have been movements for that.
Yeah.
And what that always does, no matter when they try to take freedoms away, take freedoms of
Mhm.
expression away or consumption away, it always finds a darker place to hide.
Right, and all
And
that does is make it so women are more likely to be, um, turned out, more likely to, um, be put in a position where maybe they don't have the choice. It'll give rise to more of a black market sort of, vibe about
right,
about pornographic content, I think.
which makes things more dangerous for all involved.
Right.
Now, do you think that this blowback, what's happening in Texas and other places, is a result of the great progress that's been made and that maybe it's a sign that we're about there, that we're going to dismember all of this, dismantle the shame and the guilt eventually after this last blowback because there's been so much progress made?
I think, I think it's gonna be a really long time before any significant progress is made on people not feeling ashamed of their kinks. If people didn't feel ashamed of their kinks and the things that turned them on, then they wouldn't turn to creators like me to be able to live those fantasies out. If people were more comfortable talking about that with their partners, then you wouldn't need, some weird lady dressed up like a Teletubby for you, you know? Like,
Was
that's a
that an
real thing.
actual
That
scenario?
is an
Is that an
actual
actual thing?
thing that happened to me one time. I had to wear all purple and have my laptop top up playing a video on loop of Nunu, the vacuum cleaner from Teletubbies. And then I had to pretend like I was getting off to Nunu and be like, "Oh, Nunu," and say stuff like that. That was pretty weird.
So
Yeah.
how hard is it to get, I guess, up for the experience, that you're totally kinda not into?
You just gotta commit to the bit, man. It's the same thing you do in comedy. You just gotta pretend like this is my reality right now. I gotta go with it, you know?
Is there a method or an approach that you personally use for that?
Um, no, because no, well, personally, I would have them explain to me exactly what they want in their video. And then I would come up with I don't know, I had fun coming up with ways to make it happen, and setting up shots and lights and it's almost like making art film. It's like art house, you know?
Right. I like that. I like that analysis. I like that a lot. So, was there anything did you grow up in a home that was very accepting of people's sexuality? Did you have that opportunity that many don't that has brought you to this place of feeling very free and such an advocate for it?
Well, my parents weren't prudes and, my mom was she always had an ongoing conversation with me throughout my growing up that were age appropriate, you know, talking to me about sex and sexuality and my mom was very progressive and she wasn't homophobic. So I think I'm certain that that is why I'm able to be so open and shame free about that sort of thing.
I think the exposure to it and the acceptance in a nurturing environment and
Mhm.
education is so important in many things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our issues where we have uh, really wild misperceptions about the state of humanity or certain parts of our humanity
Mhm.
all stem back to that, the education about it, the exposure to it,
Yeah.
the acceptance that people are people And we all have
Right.
different types of likes and dislikes and kinks and fetishes and things that get us
Yeah.
off, things that don't.
And that's
And
just
I
the way
think
life is.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of that, it comes from, some people are fortunate enough to grow up with parents that are more progressive and open to having those conversations. And then
Right.
also, those children don't go out into the world and put themselves into more dangerous situations trying to find themselves out. And I
Right.
think it just
That's
creates a
true.
better overall vibe around all of it.
Yeah.
So, what message would you have to anyone that's watching right now
Uh,
that is struggling with their own sexual desires and how
uh.
to express them and how to break those walls down within oneself?
I would say, figure out what you like, explore porn, have fun watching different things. And then when you find something that you like, um, tell your partner, be direct, like, hey, I saw this thing that looked kind of hot. You want to try? Because if they really love you, then they're gonna be like, yeah, yeah, of course, I want to try. But I
Hmm.
think so many people are so hung up on thinking that someone will judge them for that sort of thing that people are very hesitant to share that sort of information. And I think that's a big hurdle that I think a lot of couples need to get over, is
Well,
having
I think
open
it,
conversations.
right. It's very tough. I know being in new relationships, every time you meet someone new and you're getting to that stage of intimacy,
Yeah.
and there's things you want to talk about or things you want them to know, and it's always awkward and difficult to bring it up
Yeah.
because of all that shame and guilt.
But you gotta
So,
have these conversations early, man, so you don't waste your time.
absolutely, it's important. Don't be with someone that doesn't share that same
Yeah.
openness, or it's just going
Yeah.
to cause a big
That's the
rift,
first
and
thing.
it's just
When
going
I
to
start dating
dissolve.
someone, the first thing I ask for is a dick pic. I'm like, "I gotta see what you're working with."
Right? You got to try it before you buy it. That's
Yeah, I need to
yeah.
see what you're working with first, and then we can continue.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And at the end of the day, it comes down to communication. And
Yeah,
you cannot change how someone else is going to respond to it, or you can't make someone more open.
right.
But your own wholeness and fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness comes from you saying exactly what you need and being
Yeah,
okay. And anyone that
yeah,
doesn't align with that, that's okay. They have their own thing. Let them
right.
go find their own thing and you find your own thing. I think that's an
Yeah,
important approach. Well, I think it's great what you're doing and what you're speaking about because I think
thanks.
that sexuality is a huge thing for human beings. And as we start to unfold in a more natural way or a more authentic way as humanity as a whole, it's one thing that needs to be addressed and not
I
shied away from.
I agree. I think in America, we have a very unhealthy, sick view of sexuality for the most part, and we really need to get over that, man, because all it does is feed into, these lonely young men that feel that they're owed sex. The It just feeds into that, and we don't need any more of that. We need men that are whole and are comfortable and are secure in their own masculinity. We don't need any more men that think that porn is reality.
Right. Right. And that freedom, that environment to feel safe in that
Um,
makes it less taboo. It
yeah.
creates less of the shadow self that approaches sex
Mhm.
instead of our true self that approaches sex.
Right.
And that's right. It creates all sorts of environments where men become bitter and angry and feel entitled to sex.
Yeah.
And they haven't taken that time to really learn themselves or know what they even want. And then they're just terrible in bed on top of it. So then they're
Yeah.
terrible to be around and terrible to be intimate with. So what are you gonna do?
And then they wonder why they're all alone.
Right.
They're
Yes.
like, "Why am I so?" Go to therapy, bro. Go to therapy. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to better ourselves and to really, really know what's going on inside. Well,
I think
conversations like these are going to create a better environment, I think.
I think so
And
too.
people like you speaking about your experiences and saying to people, hey, it's okay to like what you like. It's all
Yeah,
right.
it's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's fabulous. Well, this is a good place to take a break
Alrighty.
and hold on to your hat.
Has it been a long day? Enjoy this ASMR video to calm your nervous system and brighten your mood.
All right, I'm back with Jamie Tucker, and what a wonderful conversation. And I want to thank you for your openness and describing what is taboo for many people and helping people understand what that work is really about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to circle back around to comedy now because I
Okay.
want to know, how can people come check out a show? How can they see Jamie Tucker live?
I have an open mic this Saturday at Homer's Neighborhood Bar in North Austin. Sign-ups at 6:30 p.m., show at 7. I've got about 22 spots to fill. So get there early so you make sure you get on the list. And then on the following Saturday, the next Saturday, March the 14th, I've got a showcase with headliner Dan Rathman and Sancho Pancho Villa, who's like a local favorite. And opening is one of my open mic guys that I've watched him grow and get better at my open mics, and his name is Justin Tamayo. He's going to open up the show for us. So I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. If you can get me those names again and
Yeah.
links, and I'll be glad to, put that out on social media and
Okay.
let people know where to find you and
Yeah.
them. Absolutely. So any other shows, any other projects coming up?
I'm actually going to be on a show April 4th at 8 o'clock at the Brewtique, which is a brewery in Cedar Park, I believe. Yeah. So
That's
not too far
excellent.
from Austin. Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell us about the comedy scene.
Huh?
Tell us about the Austin comedy scene.
It's a sausage fest. That's that's the best way to explain it, but thank goodness I've got a few years of experience. I've been doing this for almost 7 years, that those guys don't really intimidate me. But whenever I got to Austin and I started going to open mics downtown, I noticed that the the hosts always acted like they didn't want to be there. The vibe was not fun. The comics that were in the audience wouldn't laugh at the other comics set, so they weren't good audience members. So I decided to start my own open mic, and I make that shit fun. We have a good time at my open mic. I keep the energy high, compliment everybody. Everybody has fun.
What's your trick of doing that? How do you keep that energy high?
Um, I look over at these comics as almost like kids. So I treat them with the same amount of non-judgment and not really like I try to give them like a familial feeling. I want them to feel like I want them to be there. Because if I act like an asshole, they're not going to want to come back, right?
Right. So
So
you tell them they're good boys.
yes, pretty much. And they are definitely the age group that loves that sort of thing.
Right. There's the crossover there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. It's a good
Many
callback.
talents you have that bring to your shows. I like that.
Yeah.
What can people expect when they come check you out to perform?
That I talk about growing up in Florida. I tell jokes about my kids. I talk about subjects such as the night my mother died, but I make it funny because I want people who have been through similar traumas to be able to find the funny in that, because that's kind of the way you get over it, right? Is being able to joke
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what they could expect, hearing me talk about my trauma and make fun of it in a way that is palatable to a wide market.
I like that. I can have a pretty dark sense of humor, and I attribute
Yeah.
it to trauma and all those things. And
Mhm.
gallows humor and everything else gets me through. really is a cathartic
Absolutely.
process. And it's important to understand the seriousness of a moment and its impact, but then to be able to kind of decompress, process it through humor is a really valuable trait to have.
It is. It's saved me, definitely, and I know it saves some other comics too.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, before I let you go, the usual question I ask everyone: with all that's going on in the world, if you had one message to give all of humanity, what would your message be?
Um, First message would be stay silly. keep keep your sense of humor. Find the ridiculousness in everything that happens to you. But then the other thing is a quote from Mr. Rogers, and he always said, "Look for the helpers." When you're watching the news and you see all these horrible things happening across the world, spend your time looking for the helpers and notice how many people are actually helping too.
That's wonderful. Look for the helpers.
Yeah,
I love that. That's really, really powerful. It's important. And I think with a
yeah,
lot of people, I wonder sometimes in our society if we have trouble identifying the helpers.
right.
So to you, what shows you who's a legitimate helper or who's trying to get a vote or to publicize themselves? What's the difference?
A real helper is someone who's fighting for the safety of the common person instead of, let's cut funding to vaccine efforts and cause a
Right.
measles outbreak. Like
Yeah.
that's not helping. What are you helping? You're not helping anything. What are you helping by shooting this weird video with you and Kid Rock doing push-ups in a sauna while you're wearing jeans? Like, what are you doing right now, guy?
I I don't even know what to say to that. It's
It's that. God, it's
it's
like how
hard
are
to believe what gets taken seriously. It
who is
really
telling
does. That
you that this is a good idea? Someone's
right.
telling these assholes that this is a good idea.
Yes. Yes. Or no one is. No one's telling them it's a bad idea.
Right.
I don't know which is happening.
Yeah, there's no real grown-ups anymore.
Right. And that's why I guess I ask that question is how do you identify the helpers? Because I think
Yeah,
we're struggling in our society. There's a
yeah,
whole portion of the population that cannot see a predator right in their face.
right. It's a lot. It's a lot to try to wrap your head around. So I just keep telling jokes to try to not go crazy.
And we need that. And I
Yeah.
thank you and all comics out there for letting us laugh, for letting us escape a little bit, for
Mhm.
taking a moment away from the darkness to, even if it's dark humor, it's way more
Yeah.
light than what's going on. And
Right.
it's
Because
important.
while you're laughing, you're not worried about stuff. While you're busy laughing, Jim Carrey calls comedy giving the audience the suspension of concern, which I think is
Uh,
really cool because he's
yeah.
right. While you're too busy laughing to give a shit about your bills or the argument you had with your partner before you got here, you're able to give space to those things that are bothering you.
It forces us to be present.
Yes.
And it, but and when I say force, it's inviting actually. It's not really a force.
Uh-huh.
It's you're invited to be present because you're engaged. You're participating in something that, oh, this is gonna be interesting or funny,
Yeah.
or it's gonna make me forget, or it's in and it just drives you right into the moment, which takes us
Yeah.
away from the headspace of the world,
Right.
you know? Well, this has been a great conversation, Jamie. I want to thank you
You.
very much
Of
for
course.
coming and joining us here. And I hope everyone's gotten a great amount out of this conversation. So I hope people tune in and check you out. If you're in the Austin area or if you want to make a long drive or take a flight, go check her out and support this wonderful comic.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Oh, you're welcome, Jamie. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah. Thanks. And scene.
And that's right. That's it. That's the show. Episode 4 has been fun to put together. I want to thank Jamie Tucker for her comedy and her insight. And I want to thank all of you for watching and going through all you do every day to make the world a little bit brighter. We will get through these trying times. All we have to do is hold on to our humanity by having faith that love is more powerful than hate. See you in episode 5.